And welcome back to Unfiltered Sports Weekly. I am the Beebs.
I am St. Joe in the hizzy.
And once again, we are -1 tonight.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Kev, if you're listening to this, we are thinking of you. Keep being the most entertaining patient.
That's funny. It's funny that he said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to send well wishes to the Keb. He had a little, well, we can say medical emergency. I guess that's fine, right? Yeah, it's not feeling so great.
But we good vibes out there to the Kev.
Yeah. Yeah.
We hope he feels better soon.
Yeah,
So
maybe he might, if he's feeling very good, he may show up in the
who
comments.
knows?
Like
You
we'll
never
see.
know. He
We'll
might show
see.
up.
We
It'll
will
be,
see.
he might be like, "Screw you guys."
Yeah, yeah. I put it
I
out in a
almost,
couple places, so we'll see. We'll
I
see
almost
what
hope he
happens.
does. But anyway, so here we are. Without, we're Kebless, right?
Yeah, yeah. Second week in a row, but that's okay. Well, we managed the last one, and I think it went well. The last one, little topics that we can do, and we managed to say, hey, we can get through a show, so we'll see if we can do it again.
Oh, we're gonna get through this show, but
Yeah,
before we get going too far, okay, I want to give a shout out because we have a bunch of new members at the studio.
yeah.
In fact, we have so many that I'm not sure I can
All
remember
right, let's
them all.
see. Let's just we
So,
haven't done this for a long time, right? So let's see if we can go through the rundown
no,
and we
that's 20
can.
names. But what about the new? How about the 5 newest? Can we remember the 5 newest people or the 5
Yeah,
newest podcasts?
yeah, we can. In fact, we can give each one of them a shout out here on the latest and greatest of the editions. So we have KJ and A podcast, which is one of the latest and
Yeah,
greatest.
yep, we just announced them this week. And then I'll tell you what, we also did that Florida feeling,
Yep.
correct?
Yep. Great podcast. If obviously for us living in Florida, a little bit of history and things like that you get to learn about there. So very fun podcast to listen to for the Florida folks. But if
Right.
you're not in Florida, you get to learn about Florida history. If you're outside of it, so really good podcast there.
Well, and then we have 12th Street Talkback, which is kind
Yep.
of a motivational and spiritual podcast,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
so shout out to 12th Street Talkback. We're
Yep.
glad that you're part of the show or part of the studio. Now,
Yep.
there's another one, Matt and Friends Drink the Universe.
Yes.
Is
And that
that right?
one, yeah, that one is, I mean, if that's a blast. I mean, it's a lot about like craft brew. They shoot on location. They talk about a lot of different topics. That is definitely a fun one. You start early, and it makes some sense, but at the later podcast, it might not make. You might get a little bit some beers in them, and they might get a little bit funnier as the podcast goes along. So it's a good one though.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Those might be all of our most recent. Is there
They
another one that I'm
are
not thinking of?
No, they are definitely the most. That's one, two, three, four of the most recent ones for sure. I know we've got a couple that we've been talking to, and in the background that are still thinking about and having conversations that we may be adding some more. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely a lot of buzz. We can't thank everybody enough to what's going on with the podcast community and the Unfiltered Studios. But yeah, we've got a lot of collaborations going on with people, lots of crossover events, lots of people coming on other people's shows. So yeah, it's going great. It's definitely a really good place to be right now.
So I do notice that we have 2 listeners. I wonder who they might be.
Oh,
I wish those 2 listeners would drop in the comments
so
because
I'm going to guess that one of them may be the ever famous Lube Man. Could
I
be
hear ya.
because I'm guessing that he may have tuned in just because some of the stuff that may be going on in the NFL There was
Yeah.
rumors that Justin Fields may be going to the Pittsburgh
A special
Steelers.
place, right?
Yes, so I'm thinking that maybe he had some strong opinions that were coming out tonight,
Yeah.
maybe. So, yeah, you never know. We'll see. So and I'm thinking that there might be another one of our very good friends that may be tuning in, and we always do love that because we like to tune into his show live and give him some friendly banter. So there may be some coming back.
Well, I hope so. But anyway, for those two who are live, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
so we kind of are winging it tonight. We do have a list for you. Okay. But before we get I mean, it's kind of a general, it's kind of not like a super specific list. I mean, it's specific, but it's not like it, you'll understand when we get to it. But so did you watch any college basketball over the weekend?
I've watched. Yeah, I've been watching quite a bit of college basketball right now because obviously we're gearing up for the March Madness. Which, man, I'm telling you right now. We were talking a little bit before that there's not a lot of sports on unless you're a baseball fan, which of course Kev is.
Mhm.
We're definitely it's kind of a lull in sports, but there is some really good college basketball on right now, gearing up for the big dance. And we talked a little bit last week that you got to watch it right now because
Yeah.
you got to get ready for the brackets, man. You got to get in gear to get the teams to know who's going to be that bracket buster because
Yep.
yeah, it there's going to be one out there.
Yep. And I think what's funny is we were talking last week about how great UConn was, right? And then
And they
they went and
lost.
lost,
Yeah,
right? Who
yeah.
did they lose to?
They lost to Creighton,
See,
and they got
now
handled.
Creighton's going to be in the tournament.
Yeah, Creighton is definitely going to be in the tournament,
So
but they
that's
lost by
a
like
team.
20 points. I mean, they got whooped.
If you're beating UConn, you can beat anybody. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're beating UConn by 20, now granted, UConn could have had an off night, but to beat
they could
that
have.
team
Yeah,
with the personnel that they have, you can beat anybody.
yeah,
That's just how it is. And so look out. I'm not saying Creighton's going to run the table or uh or win the national title or anything, but they could beat a couple guys. They could beat a couple teams. I
yeah,
mean, and
yeah,
get into that Sweet 16 or into that. The Elite Eight seems a little bit far for the Creighton Blue Jays, or you
yeah.
know. But
They're probably always going to be somewhere around a solid. I mean, they're going to be between I'll give them an 8 to a 11 seed. I mean, they're probably always right around there. But they're a solid team. They're definitely a solid team.
all right, St. Joe, give me 2 seconds.
Oh, I
Two
see the
seconds.
dog in the back. You got to let him out. It always happens. He makes, Beebs, for those that are watching, they make an appearance every now and then. You'll see an animal in the background that comes in every now and then, and it's all good. We all have pets, so special appearances by one of Beebs' many farm animals that are in his house every now and then. But that's okay. It's all good. And but yeah, it's fun with the college. Uh, yeah, I knew one of the listeners was going to be our friends at the Two Penny, and he has a little cat May that makes an appearance every time there too. So he knows exactly what's happening there with dogs and cats making the special appearances. It's always good. It's
He can
cute.
say whatever he wants. He's met
Yeah,
the dogs. He's
it's
actually
cute.
met them in person. So
It's cute. Everybody loves an animal that makes an appearance. It's fine.
right.
If you listen to mine, I think the Fandalorians had, I want to say his name was Yogi that kept barking. So, I mean, it happens. It happens. It's no big deal.
Somehow the little one slithered her way into the room before my son left, and then
Oh,
shut
that's
the door as
nice.
they left. So,
Yeah. That's a
but
tiny dog, so they could sneak in. It's all good.
anyway,
Um,
there were a couple other games over the weekend. I think UNC is coming on strong.
yeah, we talked about that again last week too. Like UNC, Kansas, Duke. There's a couple.
Well,
I
Duke
like
lost
this.
to Wake. Now that's a controversy we should probably talk about. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
because if you were paying attention, Duke lost to Wake Forest at Wake Forest, right?
Yeah.
And so Wake Forest storms the court,
Yes.
right?
Yes. I love that you're bringing this up. Yeah. This is great. Yep.
Right. So then the this is hilarious to me. Okay.
Hmm.
Not the guy getting hurt, of course. That's not hilarious.
No, no, no. Of course
But
not.
but um the concept that we should stop court storming because we might hurt somebody. Um, I do think that if you kind of watch the we're getting slow motion replays, okay, of court storming. Okay, and that's what's making me laugh so hard is
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Exactly.
somebody knocked knees with this guy, right?
Yeah.
That's all that happened. He
Yeah.
can still play and he's gonna play. I
Sure.
guarantee you he'll be in the next game. But they made it a big deal because one, they were upset that they lost.
Right.
Okay. And
Right.
and two, you know, listen, Wake Forest isn't a bad team this year. They're 17 and 9 or what? 18 and 9 now. Now that they beat
Right.
Duke. That's not a
Right.
bad team in the ACC. What on earth do you need to storm the court for when you beat Duke? Even though, I mean, because Duke's having they're not the best this year. Okay.
Right.
So why are we storming the court? One, why are we storming the court? But two, I mean, like, what are your opinions on court storming, St.
Yeah.
Joe?
So, great question. I mean, I think that if it's a good and a bad thing. Obviously, you saw the bad part of it. If you're beating the number one team, I certainly understand the energy and the camaraderie and the okay, this is great. If you're Wake Forest beating Duke, I don't see the need to storm the court. I really don't. I think that there does need to have something done in order to prevent some of these things that are happening. But was it a malicious thing that happened to the kid? No, he
Oh,
just
I love the interview afterward. Oh, I think it
yeah,
was done on purpose. I think they were
yeah,
trying to hurt me. I'm like, I'm watching the replay, dude. The guy's running the court as fast as he can. There's no way in his mind he's
right,
thinking, "Oh, dude, there's the guy right there. I got to mess him up."
yeah.
No, he accidentally ran into you. His knee hit your knee.
Yeah,
It
and if
hurt,
you ever
you
storm
know.
the court, you're paying no attention to
Right.
anybody around you. You're trying to get in the middle there. You're trying to do a mosh pit. You're trying to get, in there with your friends and just maybe you might get on camera because you're stupid and you're doing whatever else you can and you're oblivious to anything else that's going around.
Right.
So I think, but you're right. The fact that they are slow motion replaying, and here's what happened. And look, he cuts in, he put an
I mean, are
elbow,
we
and he
that
stuck his
low
thing.
on things to talk about in sports?
I
I mean,
think that we
I know
are.
the guy
I
limped off. I know that he limped off the
yeah,
court, and like the head coach made a big deal about it, and he's the head coach of Duke, so we got to listen to him talk about it. But I'm like,
yeah, yeah,
dude, how many games did you win at Duke where they stormed the court? Because he used to play for Duke, that coach.
yeah,
He played for Mike Krzyzewski. How many times at Duke did they storm the court when you won a big game? And I guarantee you, you were excited when you were playing for Duke and they stormed the court because you won a big game against your rival at the last second. Like you made this big shot. And now everybody's coming on the court and everybody's celebrating together. You didn't care about it then. In fact, you loved it then.
yeah.
You're only
But
mad about it now because your player, you know,
but you're right though. But I think we are to the point where there's not enough to talk about. I went out to eat on Friday night, last Friday night, and we were at a wing place, right? So it's
right.
sports related. There's a million TVs on. And you know what sports were on? There were pickleball championship,
Yeah. Yeah.
gymnastics,
Yeah.
a college
There's nothing
basketball, a
on because
pro
like
basketball. On three TVs, there were old videos of MTV because they didn't have enough stuff to put on. I'm
right.
like, this is ridiculous.
Well,
I mean, I think we are at
nobody's
a
watching.
very, very, very low point in sports
Two
where
episodes.
there's nothing to do.
Like, well, actually, was it last episode we talked about the death of the NBA?
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's your evidence right now.
It
Here
100%.
is your evidence right now. We are
Yep.
so bored with because the NBA, this would be the time for the NBA to come to the forefront and everybody
Yep.
be excited to talk about the
Yeah.
NBA. But here we are, nobody's watching.
Nobody's talking
And
about it. Nobody cares. Nobody
even the
cares.
guys reporting on it on ESPN are bored. I'm like, I'm watching I watch
Yeah.
ESPN every morning just kind of as your scheduled regular thing you do every morning because that's what
Yeah.
I've done for my whole life, right? I grew up,
Right.
and that's what my dad and I used to do when I woke up before school. We'd sit there, drink coffee, eat breakfast, and watch the sports. Okay, so been doing that for 30 years of my life. I still do it every morning with my son,
Right.
and they're reporting on the NBA, and it is bored. They're bored. They're bored talking about it on ESPN.
Yeah.
Who thought we would ever get? Do you know why that happened? It's because these guys are they're not doing much. They're
Yep.
shooting the three. That's it. I mean, and
Yep.
they don't have much to report. Oh, Steph Curry made 15 threes tonight. Well, okay,
Yeah,
big
exactly.
surprise. Okay,
Yeah.
did he do anything that was? I mean, sure, he might. Okay, maybe he made a shot like at the end of a game or something like that, and it was super. Like that part was exciting, but you had to get all the way to the end of a minute and a half highlight to
Yeah.
get to him making that shot, and the rest of it's boring.
Yeah.
So the NBA should be coming to the forefront now, and you only get college basketball twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so if they had college basketball on every single night, then maybe we would be having something to talk about. But now it's Saturday. There's a couple games Sunday maybe, and then
Yep.
you have like one big Monday game, and
Right.
then there's no games until Thursday or Wednesday.
Right.
And even that game, it's just one game. It's like
No,
one or two games.
100%. To me, the most entertaining part about the NBA is watching Charles Barkley and Shaq and
Oh,
Kenny
they're
and Ernie
hilarious. No,
talk.
those
I mean,
guys are
those guys are
hilarious.
hilarious.
Yes.
I mean,
But they're not talking about the NBA.
no, they're having fun and they're talking about just nonsense. I mean,
Right.
Man, I mean, there's so many clips that you can watch that come up and Charles Barkley puts his foot in his mouth over and over again, and Shaq just is over there cracking up.
He loves it. That's what what he's paid to do.
Yeah.
But let's rush back to this court storming thing real quick because Caitlin Clark also got run into.
Yep.
And she's the best player, maybe the best female player on the planet right now. And so there was controversy after she got run into at Ohio State.
There was.
But I'll tell you what, you start taking, I feel like, and I could be wrong, this is my opinion, but I feel like if you take court storming out of NCAA football or out of NCAA basketball, you're kind of starting to lose its luster because the the brilliance of college athletics is the excitement.
I agree. I mean, there's, and it's impossible to monitor it. I mean, if they're going to do that, they're just going to get trampled anyway. So you can't. What are you going to do? How are you going to monitor or stop it? You unless you're having 100 or more cops there to say don't do it, you're not going to do it.
Well, when
I don't know what you do.
Do you remember back? Like I think when Larry Bird. I think there was a game where Bird, I think it was in Boston. They won the NBA title, and the fans in Boston stormed the court. And I remember just watching him. He's got his hands up in the air like this, right? And he's protecting himself. And he just somehow bounces his way through the crowd and gets out without getting hurt.
Yeah.
That's what those guys knew to do. You know what I mean? Like they're like, okay, I got to protect myself. I got to get out. Now is that something that players should have to worry about? That is the question, I suppose. Is that something players should have to worry about? It's part of the game. It is part of the game. I mean, if that is the excitement. You take the fans out of the sport, you don't have a sport.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, probably one of the it's not necessarily storming the court, but one of the biggest plays in college football that ever happened was when the band was on the field.
The band was on the field.
Yeah. Was it Flutie? I think it was Doug Flutie, right?
John Elway.
Was it? Okay, Elway, Stanford. That's right. That's right. And I mean, I don't know. College, there's so much, like you said, the luster about college football and I'm going to call it pomp and circumstance, just for a lack of better term, that surrounds it. That it just, if you did do it and you tried to police it, it just wouldn't be the same. So,
I mean, I totally agree. If you start saying, "Hey, everyone, you shouldn't celebrate,"
yeah,
I'm not saying you have to rush onto the field to celebrate, but winning the big game, and celebrating on the court with your team, on the college level.
Yeah.
NBA might be a little bit different, but on the college level, that is, I mean, you're running out there as students cheering for your other friends who are students playing a sport. You used to do it in high school, right? So your friends are out there playing on the court and they win. You want to join them in the excitement. They're still in college. Okay. They're not NBA professionals. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe they only do it like I said, maybe they could only do it if they did it against a certain ranked team. If you beat the number one, if you beat the number two, or if you're this ranked versus this ranked, that's the only time you could do it. I don't know. Maybe they govern it that way, but
How do you? How?
I don't know. I
How?
just say leave it alone, let it
There's
be.
no way you're gonna. There's no way you're gonna stop 20,000 people from storming a court.
No, no.
So
So I think it's now Caitlin Clark did get hurt a little bit more temporarily. I think she got elbowed a little bit more than this guy did, but big deal. I mean, get over it. You're
no,
athletes, big deal.
he's gonna be playing.
If somebody did
will-
get if it came to it where somebody did get really hurt, then I guess
Yeah.
they would have to really take a closer look at it. But until that happens, big deal.
My favorite quote from ESPN this morning was about the Filipowski kid from Duke who got hit.
Yeah,
And the quote was, "Oh, Filipowski has a sore knee."
big deal.
Come on,
Yeah.
dude.
A bruised knee. Is it going
It's
to
not
keep him
even.
out?
I mean, like
No.
that's the story. The story that we're going to talk about is some dude has he's got a sore knee, but he went to practice today.
Yeah.
I mean,
What do
that's
you do?
every day. You know what I mean? You're an
Is
athlete.
he's got a sore butt because he's butt hurt. Big deal.
Right.
Big move on. It's not that big of a deal. Boo-hoo.
Yes.
It's just something to look for. But I just, again, I think we're so slow in sports that people are looking for any topic to talk about. And I just, I don't know.
I
But
will say this. There was a specific game that I watched over the weekend. Do you know what it was?
which one?
It was Bedlam, baby.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Hey,
Okay.
we got to talk about Oklahoma once every episode. That's the rule, right?
If you don't bring it up, it's not an episode.
Right. So, but Oklahoma was playing Oklahoma State at Oklahoma State.
Okay, well then that's a rival, so I'll give you that. You can at least I understand that.
Game went into overtime.
Yeah.
And at the last second of the game, they're down by one. Guy made a shot. They won the game.
Yeah, there's been some
pandemonium.
There's been some college games that have been really good. So I'm definitely looking forward to. I think probably next week. I don't know if we'll know the brackets next week but we'll definitely have to do a bracket challenge. And I say we throw it out there to anybody in the
We've already got people from the studio, volunteering. So
yeah, I think we could definitely have a couple people that we could do it. And hey, I think we mentioned last week if they want to come on and do the pick 'em, I think we got enough room that we could do that. I think that would be easy enough to do. So
yeah, absolutely.
We'll have to figure that out. But on a completely different note, I know that you said that you went down to Daytona to watch the truck race.
Yeah.
Did you happen to, just because again, there's not a lot of sports on, but did you happen to see the race in Atlanta?
No.
It was, you could have stuck a card between the finish. It was like 0.6 of a second between first and third. I mean, it was a photo finish. It was great. It was,
what was that race?
I think it was in, I'm sure I want to say it was in Atlanta.
Right. What was the name of the race?
Oh gosh. It's the other, they're coming up to like the Toro Weed Eater race or whatever. Again, they're doing all the goofy names that they have now too with their sponsors. But
if Kev was here, he would have told us because
I'm sure, the redneck that Kev is, he probably knows it too. But he, when you grow up in Jacksonville all your life, there is a certain style that comes in. But he, it was crazy the picture that they showed, and I mean, literally, I don't know if I've ever seen a race that close. So I'm glad to see that NASCAR is being a little bit more competitive. That I've watched a little bit here and there and been to a couple of races, which are fun. But it has come to see that I couldn't tell you drivers. It's changed so much. But from any of them that I grew up with, and no, I couldn't tell you a name of a driver right now. But it is pretty interesting to see some of that highlight. It was pretty cool. But yeah, but and of course now the other news. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You have news.
The bigger news that we mentioned a little bit was the big combine coming up with football and a lot of different things with the draft choices.
Oh yeah.
and movement. Man, a lot of free agents, a lot of different things happen in the NFL. I think that a lot of teams are going to look a lot of different. The
Yeah.
landscape is going to look very different.
So
For
speaking
one
of
of
the
our
draft,
friends, yeah, go ahead.
now that you brought it up,
Yep,
one of the things that got floated today, or this last week anyway, was about what's our next episode going to be on, right?
right,
Because we're slow on sports, and somebody brought up we should discuss some of the bigger uh, busts from the NFL or from the draft,
right,
since it's upon us, and that they're getting ready to do the combine right now.
right.
One, I think we should start by saying who in this draft do you think is going to be a bust?
You know my number one answer.
Well, we've
I
already
think,
established that you think Caleb Williams is going to be a
yeah,
bust.
yeah.
But I think there's other people who are going to be a bust in this draft. Okay.
Okay,
It's not just going to be Caleb Williams.
yeah.
I think out of any of the quarterbacks that are going to be drafted, he might have the best chance of not going bust.
Okay.
But I do not think that the kid from LSU, I think he's going to be a bust.
You think Jalen Daniels, is that his name?
Yeah, I think it's Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels, or yeah, okay.
I think if he goes in as a quarterback, which he will, I think he's going to be a bust.
I
I could
think
be absolutely wrong. I'm not this isn't my professional, I'm not a professional. I'm just a guy who watches the games, but I think a quarterback that scrambles as much as he has to scramble to be effective, I don't foresee him having a long NFL career.
yeah. Oh, we got to put this comment
Oh
up.
yeah.
Anyone
Hey,
from Oklahoma?
I'm not even sure. I don't even know if they've got anybody going into the
And
draft. They might. I don't know.
this is even better news. Did you see who it's from?
Oh, yes. I'm so glad it is from
I am.
them.
It's from the hospital bed itself. Is the number one patient.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see that he's joining by proxy in comments. The Keb is with us in spirit here, at least by comments. So that's good to know. He's feeling at least well enough to
here's a little
make
bit of
some
here's a little bit of
comments.
information for the Keb. Okay. Who was the starting center for the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl?
I'm sure it's somebody from Oklahoma.
He was the center from Oklahoma. Okay. I don't even remember the guy's name, but he was the center for Kyler Murray.
Oh,
When he
okay.
played in Oklahoma. But
Okay.
he wasn't
Well, good
a
for him.
bust.
Good
But
for him.
Oklahoma's had plenty of busts in the
I'm
past.
sure.
I can tell you that.
Yeah. There's not one on my list, but okay. Well, yeah, I think you're right. I think Caleb Williams, as much as I despise him, and I will eat my words. Mark this date down in history that if the Bears draft him and he turns out to be the franchise quarterback of the next Patrick Mahomes, I will love him to death. I will be the biggest Caleb Williams fan in the world.
Right.
I'll be on the bandwagon and it'll be great. But
Right.
if not, I will be the biggest person to say I told you so. So I'm that guy.
Yeah, and I will tell you this: like Caleb Williams, when you watch him play, he looks tall, but he's really not that tall.
Yeah.
And that's something that's come up. Okay, that
Yep.
he's really not that tall. Now his release point is a lot, whereas the Jaden Daniels kid's like way down here by his chest, and that's what makes me think, hey, he's not that great of a thrower. I think that maybe, if he has to scramble so much, he's just going to get pummeled, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Reminds me, he just reminds me he makes me think of a guy. He's really fast, but he just makes me think of a guy who's super athletic, but really not the best thrower of the ball.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
Yep. I'm with you. I think that for me, and I think that I mentioned this last week, that I think that if of the quarterbacks in the top 5, and again, I think the kid from North Carolina, I think
May.
Is it May? Drake
Yeah.
Drake May. I think he's probably all around the best
Yeah.
overall quarterback, in my opinion.
I don't think Bo Nix is going to be an especially good NFL quarterback.
No, I think he'll be a mid-level quarterback, but I mean, um, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Definitely quarterback heavy, and there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks. But there's also, and this is the interesting thing too, is there's plenty of quarterbacks right now that are free agents that are out there that could make a team. Like
Yep.
Kirk Cousins is out there. Uh,
Yep.
let's not forget about Russell Wilson. I mean,
Oh yeah. He's
everybody
just kind of
says
floating
he's
around.
going back to Denver. I don't see him going back to Denver.
Speaking of which, if he doesn't go back to Denver, they got to pick somebody.
Yeah, and they have to trade up in order to get him. So I could see Denver trading up
To get
easily,
Caleb
trading
Williams.
up in the draft.
They could
And
end
they
up
have a
trading up.
coach in Sean Payton, that will talk anybody into trading away draft choices to get who he wants to get. And there's a lot of teams up there that are sitting there that they could easily
I'd
trade up and get a quarterback.
I'd say Denver is going to be there. You're going to get movement out of Denver.
Yes,
I
and you're going to get
really do
moved.
think you're going to
The
move that.
the Raiders need a quarterback,
Yep.
and the Raiders they'll give away the farm, I think,
Well,
in order to move up.
Did they cut Jimmy Garoppolo?
I, if they didn't, I mean, are you going to stick with Jimmy Garoppolo? I don't think so.
No, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is like. I know he went to a Super Bowl. Okay, I get it. And I think, is he good enough to be a starter in the NFL? It depends on your team, of course.
Yeah.
But I think he might be the best backup in the league. I think that's what his skill set is.
Yeah.
Right. You're okay with your starting quarterback getting injured because you have Jimmy G on the bench. But is Jimmy G good enough to be your starting quarterback? I don't think so. I really
Yeah.
I don't know. But in the light of busts,
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about, and it doesn't necessarily need to be, I mean, we can start NFL, but there are some big busts in other leagues too. But can you think of recent busts in the NFL draft that were
Yes.
surprising?
Yeah. So most recently, and I have it ranked from 10 to 1. So
Oh, you ranked yours. Okay.
yeah. So most recently, the biggest bust that I have, and it's number 10 for me, is Zach Wilson. New York Jets quarterback,
What was he
2021.
drafted? What was he
He
drafted?
was drafted number 2 overall, and he just didn't. Oh, you son of a bitch, Kev.
I don't think Justin
Zach
Fields is a bust,
Wilson, it just hasn't amounted to anything. He just, I mean, they brought in Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers gets hurt. I mean, Wilson has tried, but he
it's
just
clear
hasn't.
that he's not a starter in the NFL.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It's clear he's not a starter.
Yeah,
He can win you a game.
he
He could
can.
win you a game. So he could be a backup in the NFL, which is not a bad gig. I mean, that's not a bad gig, but yeah, he's as far
He's
as
had his moments, but
well, this reminds me of
yeah.
the dude who was Sam Darnold? The
Yeah,
USC quarterback that was drafted so high, went to the Jets. He's like, I'm gonna take,
yeah.
I'm gonna take this team, and then like never really came to fruition. I think he's a backup for the Niners right now.
Yeah. Let's just say I think Zach Wilson's mom's gotten more play than he has.
Oh,
Wow.
oh,
Wow. Was that too soon?
wow, hurrah!
Wow.
Jeez.
Wow. I forget who dated him, or who somebody dated the mom or did whatever, but yeah, it wasn't pretty. Wasn't
I
pretty.
would say Mitchell Trubisky is one of the biggest busts.
I mean,
I would say Mitch Trubisky is one of your. I mean, like, because he started for the Bears.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. They traded up to get him.
Couldn't win.
He
Ended up playing for the Steelers.
Yeah.
Got a good coach there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Couldn't start for them and win. Right. So
yeah.
they tried starting him, and he was so bad they had to put in Zach Randolph.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
then they
Zach
drafted
Randolph
Fields.
won. Right.
They drafted Fields and shipped off Trubisky. So, I mean, I'm with you. Trubisky
He was a number 1 pick, wasn't he? Trubisky.
I think he was he might have been number 2 overall, but he was up there. He was up there.
Yeah.
So, well, So I'm just gonna go right down the list I have. I have number 9 was Kajana Carter.
Yeah, dude, he was a huge bust. Like
Yeah,
everybody was so high on that dude in that draft. There's
yeah.
another dude from that draft who was a huge bust too. Big LSU quarterback. What
Nope, it
was his name?
wasn't in that one.
He
This
played
was
for Oakland.
1995.
Okay, yeah, that's later on, I think.
So, but this is Kajana Carter was the number 1 overall pick, and
Didn't he go to
yeah,
Cincinnati?
Bengals. Yep,
Okay.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So
He,
yeah, I would agree with that one wholesale. that was
yeah,
a bust, a big one.
yeah.
But who's the dude that played Oakland drafted him?
Oh, we're gonna get there.
Oh, okay. So he's already on your radar. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
um
Uh,
another
Um,
one that I would say people will call him a bust, right? But I don't think he was. And this will be controversial. Someone's going to yell at me.
we like
Someone
controversy.
but Tim Tebow, do you think
Oh, oh boy, you might
do
break
you
the comments here.
do you think that he was a bust? I don't think he was a bust because he was a starter for the Broncos, won them some big games, but he wasn't he refused to play in a position other than quarterback. And I think
Wait,
that
wait, we've got a code blue at, at the hospital right now.
right. So but I think like he managed some games for the Broncos and they're like, no, he's not going to be able to throw the ball. so so they got rid of him, right? Do you think being the Heisman winner, and I have a list of Heisman winners, and it's actually kind of shocking to tell you the truth, how many of these guys really didn't do much. Now
Sure.
there's a lot that did, but I'll say this, he did more than another gentleman than the gentleman that won the Heisman before Tim Tebow did in 2007. And that's Troy Smith from Ohio State.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't know Troy Smith. Is there like a search party out there looking for him? We have no idea what happened to
Well,
that.
he was at the Ravens for a little while, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. But did he ever play?
I'm not sure,
Right.
but
So I mean,
I know what you're saying with Tebow. Um,
the expectations were not high, I guess, coming into the draft. So I guess you couldn't call him a bust, but he was in the middle of the first round.
yeah, yeah,
So
I know what
I
you're
mean,
saying.
he was probably maybe your best college football player ever to exist. Maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I think that he was with as far as Denver was, he took him to the playoffs. He won a playoff game. He did. I mean, he did a lot of good things.
Right.
So if you look at him statistically and things like that, would he have been considered a bust? I don't know. I don't think that he would have been. Is he a tailor-made NFL quarterback?
No, he wasn't.
Probably not. Right.
Right.
But did he play good football? Did he win? Did he do what he needed to do? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's another one. I guess here's the question for you.
You know, he played what? Did he play 3 years?
3 years.
So, that's longer than some of them.
Yeah.
So, as far as that, I would say he did okay.
Mhm. Would you consider Bryce Young a bust?
Bryce Young.
He's a starting quarterback for Carolina. They were terrible this year.
I think that's yet to be determined.
I mean, they won one game?
Yeah. I think it's too soon to figure out with him.
Okay.
I mean, Carolina's horrible, so you can't really.
Well, I mean, in that same case, you could say Kajana Carter was playing for.
I mean, you could. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I think Bryce Young I think he'll be okay, but we'll have to see. I mean,
I really didn't believe he was that great of a quarterback in college. Now I know that he roasted a bunch of teams, but the famous quote is he was a great game manager.
yeah. Well,
Right.
we know somebody else that did pretty well at that. So
Right.
and he turned out pretty good. So
let's not use that term. He actually had to throw
Yeah.
the ball to some guys, and he had to be accurate with it, and won Alabama a bunch of games. Now, did that translate over to the NFL? Not yet. It hasn't.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have
Well, I
anybody
mean,
to
when you've
throw
got
to.
Adam Thielen to
So,
throw to, and
right,
you've got a lot of old, not a pretty good surrounding team on there, and
right.
honestly, a coach that didn't really know what was going on, and I don't know. We'll see what happens with Carolina, but
All right. Well, who's your next guy? Number 8.
so my next one is probably one of my favorite busts of all time, and I know it's low on my list, but it's probably not just because of the team that it was on, but if this guy's not on your list, it's not a list. Um, Tony Mandrich
Boy, I don't even.
from the Green Bay Packers drafted him number 2 overall. He was an offensive lineman. He
Boy,
was a giant. He was this guy, and it ended up he was like doing steroids. He was doing all these things. But
yeah.
he was a machine, and this guy was phenomenal at his position. He did everything, and he ended up just being. They could have had Barry Sanders,
Oops.
but they picked Tony
Oops.
Mandrich.
Can you imagine what the Packers would have been like with Barry Sanders?
Yeah. So it was one of those things where you're
Yeah.
like, okay, do I pick this guy or do I pick Barry Sanders? Well, we'll take Tony Mandrich.
Well, I think who did the Packers
Okay.
have as a running back? They had a good running back then, didn't they?
Well, I mean, back who did they have Edgar Bennett? I
Yes,
think it might have been Bennett back
I
then.
think so.
But I mean, you could have had Barry Sanders. I mean,
Yeah, I guess that's the truth.
yeah. But I'm like, okay, here's this. But either way,
All right, well,
yeah.
here's a big one. I don't have them numbered, but here's a big one. Johnny Manziel.
Johnny Manziel is
Is
a
he on
good
your
cut.
list?
That's a good. He's not on my list. He's
Okay.
not on my list, but that is a good bust. I do think that Johnny Manziel belongs on a good is a good list.
That goes down in history
Yeah,
for the Browns
yeah, yeah,
as the worst researched pick of all time.
yeah. Johnny Manziel,
He
great,
was he
great
was clearly
documentary on him
not
though.
okay. Like, he was
God,
clearly not okay. And we
no,
all knew it, right? We all, like, even
yeah,
all of us who were watching college football, we all knew the man was not okay.
yeah,
And for Cleveland to spend the first number 1 pick on Johnny Manziel,
yeah, yeah. Man, that
man,
documentary on Netflix about him is awesome. It's a good documentary. But
yeah,
yeah, Johnny Manziel is a good one. That's a good one. I didn't have him on my list, but that's a good one.
yeah, yeah.
My next one, number 7, is Charles Rogers from the Lions, wide receiver from the Lions,
I remember
number
Charles.
2 overall.
Yep.
That's 2003. He just wasn't really, it never amounted to anything. It's hard when you have Megatron,
Yep.
and you always want to compare really people. I
Yep.
forget where Rogers was out of. What was he? I don't think he was Michigan, but he just never amounted to anything, and it for highly touted come out of there and ended up in the Lions and just did nothing. So
Yep. So I have a couple more. Kev might hate me after this. But there's a certain player out of Florida in 1996 who won the Heisman. His name was Danny Horfel.
ooh, golly. You're picking wow. Danny. Well, you might as well put if you're saying Emmett Smith in there. He kind of sucks, right? I mean, geez. Oh my God,
Danny
Warfel.
No, Emmett Smith didn't suck. Danny
No,
Horfel,
but
he didn't have an NFL career that I can recall, did he? I mean, am I forgetting something?
no, but I mean, okay, all right.
Yeah. I know that's kind of a throwback. I remember watching Danny Werfel. He was a great quarterback in
You're all
college.
right.
But
Yeah, that's okay. Danny Warfel. Oof. Okay. All right. My number 6 is it's just this guy liked this cocaine. This guy really, and everybody in Jacksonville knew it.
yeah.
Number 5 pick overall in 2012 was one Justin Blackman.
Boy, and I'll tell you what, I had a front row seat to watch that dude play.
You did.
He was, and I saw him play because it was okay. Well, let's turn over to see what Oklahoma State's doing. I'm
Yeah.
root for
Yeah.
the other team. right?
He was
And in
good.
every single game, the man was just on fire. Just on fire. And he made it to
Yeah.
the NFL and did nothing. Like,
Yeah.
zip, lost his mind, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It is,
In fact, I haven't seen a college receiver like that. I mean,
yeah.
whew, but he was tall, he was strong. I can't think of another wide receiver like that.
No,
Wow. No,
he was definitely coming out and being like, he could have been really good, but he just messed it up and, was not good. Was not good.
right. Wow. That's
Um,
yeah, that is a big bust. That is a real bust. That's a
yeah.
great
Yeah.
one.
He
Okay.
got busted, literally got busted.
All right. Well, here's
Um,
my
Go
list
ahead.
actually is packed with Heisman winners who never really produced after the Heisman. So you'll remember one dude from Florida State who was a great quarterback for Florida State back in the year 2000. Old man, Chris Winkie. Do you remember
Okay.
him?
Yeah. Chris
Yeah, and he
Winkie.
was drafted high in the NFL, and they thought he was going to be a good quarterback.
Yep.
So,
Yep. He never
and
amounted to much either.
Kev just said, "Funny, we don't hear any Oklahoma players on the list." Well, you just wait. There's at
Oh,
least one. Okay.
oh, okay.
I would say Sam Bradford was a huge bust because he in college football, I wouldn't say he's as big of a bust as these guys because he did start for a few years in for the Rams,
He did.
but he was a bust in my opinion because of injuries. In my
Yeah.
opinion,
Mr. Glass, man. He got hurt all the time.
but there was a Heisman winner from Oklahoma named Jason White who lit up college football for a couple years and then drafted really high and then did nothing in the NFL. Zero. We don't even know where
Hmm.
he's at. You know what I mean? Like he's just gone. So yeah, we do have plenty of busts at Oklahoma. Okay, so
All right. Well, my next one is I believe he was out of Ohio, uh, which
Ohio.
which makes me very happy. The Buckeyes, hold the special place in my heart. Vernon Golston,
Wow.
defensive end. Again, the
Wow.
Jets.
Yep.
The Jets seem to draft some pretty crappy players.
I remember Vernon Golston. I
Yeah,
remember that. That's
2008.
yep.
He was drafted number 6 overall, and defensive monster, and in college, but it didn't equate to NFL. Very, very. This is a great one because, and I could almost put him on the list too. Is very similar to Chase Young.
Yeah.
Chase Young had a kind of a good first year, did okay, got hurt a little bit, and then after that, he hasn't really amounted to a
Yeah,
lot.
he's been a little bit of a bust. Who's the guy that
Yeah,
came out
so
of
I
Georgia?
could
Who's the
label
guy that
Chase
came out of
Young
Georgia?
kind of a bust, but very
Who
similar to Golston, who,
yeah.
by the way, Chase Young is a free agent, so he's going to end up somewhere. Um, but would I want to have Chase Young on my team? Yeah, I'd take Chase Young on my team. I mean, I think he's a good player, but is he a bust? I think he is. He's a good defensive player, but is he a phenomenal defense player? No, I don't
I
think
know it
so.
is. So Jadeveon Clowney.
Now, I don't know. I think Jadeveon Clowney was a good. I don't know. I disagree. I think he was good. I think Jadeveon Clowney was a pretty
He might
good.
have had well, so Chase Young had a couple good seasons.
But Jadeveon
I can't
Clowney was he with Houston right away?
for a season.
Who drafted him?
It wasn't Houston, I don't think. Maybe it was. Let's take a look. I'm gonna have to look that up because
I
that
think it
was a
might have been
big
Houston originally, but I don't know. I think Jadeveon Clowney had a couple good years at least, and it was pretty
he's
good. High
still playing,
defensive.
I think. He's playing for or his last team was Baltimore. Yeah, he's on the Ravens. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh but the team that drafted him, who drafted him?
I want to say it was Houston, but
He was the first overall pick. Yep, by the Houston
yeah,
Texans.
yeah.
I know
So
he got injured right off the bat.
He
Okay.
did, but I mean, I still think that he had enough defensive stats that he was because
I
you got
cannot.
J.J. Watt there, you got that, and then
All right.
Clowney could go
Well,
right up the middle. So
let's think of these teams. I think I can think of. Okay, so here's the teams he's played for: Houston, Seattle,
okay,
Tennessee, Cleveland, and now Baltimore. Of the teams he's played for, I remember him playing for Houston,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that was 2018. That's the last time he played for Houston. So that's
hmm.
been 6 years, say Joe. 6 years.
Yeah. That's a while, but yeah, oh, Kev threw out a good one. David Pollock. That's a bit. Oh,
Oh
golly,
yeah.
that's a
So
good
hey,
one too.
and
Yeah.
now that he mentioned, why don't you give us your next one? Because I have a really good one.
So after Golston, the Bengals again appear. Bengals and Jets
Surprise.
are not doing well on my list,
No. Well,
unfortunately.
the Browns didn't do very good either.
Yeah, Browns. I have another Browns one too, but
Yep.
this is quarterback Alkali Smith
Oh man.
back in 1999, drafted number 3 overall. So yeah, it just again touted out of college, good college quarterback, just didn't transfer over to the NFL.
Yeah. So I was gonna say Eric Crouch, but I'll tell you what, he never played in the NFL, so I can't use him.
Yeah,
Can I? Can't do it.
I mean, I know what you're saying with Eric Crouch, but yeah, I don't think he played down in the NFL.
No, he didn't. His team was the let's see. Sorry, he does play for the Omaha Nighthawks right
Yeah,
now,
that doesn't count. That doesn't count.
but the Toronto Argonauts.
Yeah, David Pollock is a good pick, though. That is a good. Yeah,
Yeah, that was a. I mean, yep, he doesn't play in the NFL anymore. That's
no,
for sure. So
no.
I yeah, yep. That's a good one for sure. Here's another one that's kind of popping into my mind. Desmond Howard
Desmond Howard was good.
in the
Um,
NFL. Who did he play for? Oh, he played for the Green. I'm thinking of a different dude
he
altogether.
played for the
I'm thinking of a different.
Packers.
I'm thinking of like Charlie Ward. I think.
Charlie
I'm
Ward
not
was not good. That was a
right.
good. That was a good one too. But
1992, Charlie Ward won the Heisman. Got drafted by the Arizona Cardinals. That's the guy I was saying. Not Desmond Howard, but
yeah,
Charlie Ward.
Charlie Ward didn't really amount to anything.
Well, he went and played in the NBA.
Yeah, yeah.
So
He thought for a long time he battled between NFL or basketball, and then he tried his hand at basketball, and he didn't do good at either one.
he was okay. He played for the New York Knicks. Nobody remembers him, but he did play in for the Knicks back when they were battling the Bulls. He was on that team. So he was good enough to play for the Knicks during their heyday back then in the 90s. But that said, his NFL career was an absolute bust.
Yeah, yep.
Absolute bust. So,
Well, I'm in my top 3, and they're all pretty good.
all right. Well,
So
I'm out. So you give me
okay,
your top 3.
top 3. So number 3, Trent Richardson,
Yes.
running back, went to the Browns,
Injuries, right?
2012. Yep, drafted number 3 overall.
Yep.
Injuries ate him up.
Mhm.
So unfortunately, some of these are injuries, but Trent Richardson was the injury bug. Number 2, one of the all-time best meltdowns in NFL history. Number one, Ryan Leaf.
Oh, yes, he was on my list.
Yep,
Sorry, I forgot to mention
1998,
him.
drafted number 2 overall. Let's see. Do you take Ryan Leaf or do you take Peyton Manning? Give me Ryan Leaf. Chargers. Give me Ryan Leaf. Let's do that. He's
Can you
mentally
imagine,
ready. He's capable, and he's going to be awesome.
can you imagine Peyton Manning playing for that Chargers team?
God. Well, you know
Boy.
what? That's the second Manning that should have been a Charger and
Eli
wasn't.
Manning, yeah.
Yeah, because nope, I'm not going to play for the Chargers. I would rather play for the Giants.
Mhm.
Yes. So, and then number 1 is what you mentioned earlier. LSU quarterback Jamarcus Russell.
Dude, that guy.
Yep. 2007, number 1 overall.
Wasn't his thing
Big.
the purple drink? Like they
Yeah, he
caught him
did
drinking codeine. Is that what it was? All the time?
something or another. But that guy was just a monster quarterback, like Cam Newton size, just a huge beast of a quarterback, and you're thinking, how can this guy not succeed? And
And he didn't.
yeah, he didn't. He just he
Speaking
would
of
just fell apart.
big dudes who couldn't succeed, there's a couple dudes from the NBA that I wanted to bring up. Okay, we were like,
Oh,
okay, well,
that's
there's
a
a
good
couple.
question.
Like, I don't want to sit here and pepper, busts from the NBA too, but there were some big time players who should have been successful that never really showed up to the NBA too. Um, you could name them, but there were some dudes who were like, okay, these guys are the next coming of the next star, the next big thing, right? So we had mentioned him. His name is Sam Bowie from Kentucky,
Yeah,
and that man. If you watch his highlights when he was at Kentucky, there was no doubt that he was going to be amazing. Like,
yeah,
no
yeah.
doubt. But before he entered the NBA, he broke his ankle, and then they drafted him to number 2 anyway,
Right,
and he just never got over the injury,
right.
right? So he was a bust, I guess you could say, because of injury. But the other one that I wanted to bring up was from Ohio State. Okay. And you might remember one Greg Oden. Do
Yeah,
you remember this guy? He
yeah.
was he was so dominant at Ohio State when he played for them. They went to the Final Four, um, and they kept saying, "Okay, this dude's the next big thing." And then he got in and was drafted by the Portland Trail Blazers, and
Hmm.
just nothing ever happened.
Yeah, the guy looked like he was about 40 years old and he was in high school because he had the big beard and everything. And yeah,
Yep. And he was also fragile. Like, kept getting injured.
yeah.
So, um, honorable mentions. Do you remember a guy named Kwame Brown? Do
Hmm.
you remember that guy?
I mean, the name sounds familiar, but
Okay. Do you remember a guy named Aloa Condi, Michael Aloa Condi,
yeah,
number 1 pick by the Clippers?
yeah.
Never did anything.
No,
And then uh there was a couple guys that, yeah, Greg Oden, and then there was a couple guys that they thought, okay, well, do you remember this dude named Markelle Fultz?
doesn't ring a
Drafted
bell.
drafted number 1 overall by the Philadelphia 76ers in 2017.
Hmm.
He played in just 14 games as a rookie as due to an injury. He is still playing. Okay, he's not out of the NBA, but being a number 1 draft pick, playing in Orlando, averaging 14 points in Orlando a night is probably not your great expectation of your number 1 overall pick if you are the
No,
76ers.
no,
So
not at all.
so
Do you
I mean,
remember Adam Morrison, the
yep, I do.
Stash?
Dude could score in
Yeah.
college.
Now he plays with the Lake. He was with the Lakers for a while, but
I'm not sure that he's
um,
playing anymore,
yeah,
but
I don't know if he is anymore. But that guy was great,
he
and
could score. And
he's
then
terrible now. I don't know. I don't even know if he's in the league anymore.
there was a guy who came out of BYU who scored a ton of points. What was his name? And that was recent too. He didn't get drafted real high because he was short, so he doesn't really belong on the list because the expectations, even though he scored like 30 or 40 points a game at BYU,
Yeah.
expectations weren't as high for him because he just didn't have the physical build. But
Well, that's like we talked about last week too a little bit. It was Zach Edey. I think that he'll be good. Um, it just doesn't matter. I hope that he will be. I think that he has the ability and the skills to be pretty good in the NBA.
oh, hey, there's a question on here from the Keb. Is Blaine Gabbert a bust?
I don't think Blaine Gabbert's a bust. I think Blaine Gabbert did pretty well.
For who?
Well, who did he play for?
He played for Jacksonville.
He did.
They didn't win.
You don't have to win in order to be a good quarterback.
I mean, isn't he? But he's still in the league, isn't he? He's still like a
He's still in
backup
the league.
quarterback.
He's still in the league. I
That,
think he was with Tennessee for a while. He was with San Francisco. Um,
The thing about it is he was drafted really high.
he
Was
was.
he wasn't a number 1 overall pick though, was he?
I don't think he was a number one, but um, he was high. But I mean, he was with Jacksonville for a
Well,
while. He was. I think it was Mark Brunell's replacement.
what about the other guy that came from USF?
Blake Bortles. I think Blake Bortles was a great quarterback. I think he was fine.
He had one good season.
How many
One.
seasons does it take to be considered a good quarterback?
Well, you would have to be good beyond one season, and the one season he had that was good, was the year that they had an incredible defense and a great running back.
Okay, so all right, so let's just take
No,
that down. Let's take that theory right now. So Brock Purdy, in this case, goes down next season and tears his Achilles tendon and
oh,
can never play
that
football
is that what
again.
happened to him? Is that what happened to, Bortles?
No, no,
Oh,
no, but let's just say that. So Brock Purdy tears his Achilles so bad, and it's a season-ending or career-ending injury, and he can never play again. Is he a great quarterback? Is he a
well,
bust?
no.
Is
No,
he?
he was never able to well, if he just never picks up a football game
Yeah,
again, you would say that he was just never you would just say that he never had the opportunity like, he just didn't play, he never played again, so we don't know. So, I mean, if that's not the same argument because Blake Bortles might still be in the NFL somewhere, right? He never got injured, and then he went to another team, and he doesn't start for that team, and I've never seen him play again after that one season.
you've never seen who?
Blake Bortles.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's a carp. He's I don't know. He could be bagging groceries somewhere for all I know. He
Well,
sold his
that's
house.
kinda my point is, like, if you have one good season and then you disappear, but you're still an NFL player, I mean,
Well,
like,
he went to play for the Rams.
okay.
So he played after Jacksonville. He went and
No,
played a
I
couple good
know, he's
places,
a
but
backup quarterback in places. Did he start for the Rams?
he played a couple games when somebody got hurt. He went
Yeah.
and did it and
I guess
played.
I'm just asking the question, I'm not saying he's a bust, but I am saying that, like, just because he had the one good season doesn't necessarily mean that he's not a bust.
Yeah. Well,
'Cause I'm
I
trying to
think I'm pretty sure in that season he took him to the
he took him to the
championship
yeah.
game.
So I guess maybe you can't say that, I don't know. They were one play away from going to the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah,
That
that's
was the
right.
year?
Miles Jack wasn't down,
Right,
so
right. So, I don't know how I feel about that. One good I guess you would say, "No, he's not a bust," but the thing is when you draft a quarterback that high, you kinda want him to be your franchise quarterback forever, right?
sure, of course, yeah,
How
yeah.
about this? How about this question? How long do you wait with Trevor Lawrence? I'm not saying he's a bust, but I'm saying how long would you wait with Trevor Lawrence before you said, "Hey, we need to find somebody else?" Because he didn't have a great season. You know
I
what I mean?
think they're going to play out if they're smart, they're going to play out their contract, and they're because they're going to end up having to pay him a lot of money. So
I think he's good enough to start in other places. I think
sure,
he's been running for his life. That's what I think.
sure. But I mean, if the Jags are smart, I don't think they give him an extension. I think that they're either going to tag him and then pay him a year, and then they're going to figure out something. But
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to give him some kind of big extension because it's going to be a lot of money. So,
Yeah. So, before we wrap this up, I do have a stupid sport,
oh,
and
perfect,
it's in honor of the Keb. It's one that
perfect.
he and I got to experience together, uh, because we watched the show together, and it was
Oh,
called
yeah.
the show Losers. So if you listen to our show prior when we actually did the, episode on that TV show, there was a sport that didn't really get mentioned and hasn't been mentioned yet. I don't wanna steal it from him, but I'm gonna do it just because
You
we need to
can.
do a stupid sport and I
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
So, have you ever heard of this sport, dog dancing?
Yes.
Have you seen it?
I have seen it.
So, this is a sport where 65-year-old women can spend their life savings to teach their dog. Sorry. When you watch it, and then you remember it, you cannot help but laugh about it. But when you watch it, you watch these people, it's not just women, it's men too. But they're spending a lot of money to teach their dog to walk in zigzags and between their legs at certain times during music. And hey, there's
Yep.
judges, and
Yep.
it's like ice skating, but without the ice and with
Mhm.
dogs.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So when you watch this, you are just you're like, is this a real people buy tickets to watch this, St. Joe.
I know.
People buy tickets to watch this. They actually travel all over the world to watch this. Okay. Someone
Yeah.
paid $65 for a ticket to watch this show. I mean, to watch it, this competition. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you watch it, all you're seeing is, like I said, 65-year-old ladies or men who spent their life savings to teach their dogs to walk around in circles and zigzags. And some judge somewhere is somehow paid to judge whether they're doing it correctly or not.
It just doesn't seem right.
It is a paid sport
Yeah. No.
for a Russian national team.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It doesn't seem right.
That is our stupid sport of the week. Yes, it is a Russian sport. They have a team, a Russian national team for dog dancing.
Well, I mean, everybody has their vice, I guess, right?
I'm not sure it's a vice. I don't see anything wrong with it, but it's not a sport, St. Joe.
Uh,
It's not a
y-
sport.
yeah. Yeah.
It
No.
it's as much a sport as, say, like
Well,
poker is a sport. You know what I mean?
yeah. Okay. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although I like watching poker.
Yeah.
So
I'll watch poker more than I'll watch dog dancing, but
right.
yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so you got anything? You got anything cooked up for the drama section, or did we?
No, I don't have any drama for Mama Dia this week, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, nothing at all. Best I can say is, um, like I said, there's a lot of collaborations going on with everybody in the podcast on the networks. So just tune into everybody's podcast because there might be some drama on those podcasts.
yeah,
Yeah, I know this week for mine coming out this next week, I'm going to have a couple of guests on from different podcasts on, and we're going to discuss some pop culture as always for mine next coming up week. So that'll be fun. How about yours? Anything on finding your way that's extra
yep.
special?
Actually, have a recorded interview with Dan from the Story Of podcast,
Excellent, excellent.
and it's a
See,
great conversation. People will and should enjoy it. So they should. We talk about some very serious life situations. So
excellent,
uh,
cool.
worth listening to. But I'll tell you what, St. Joe, if there's nothing more, you know,
No,
okay.
no,
Well,
we're all good.
for the
Kev, get
Keb,
better, man. Glad you could join us on the comments.
yep. For the Keb, for St. Joe, I'm the Beebs. We'll catch you on the flippity flop.